the Experience of Twilight Sparkle, the original version, not the one that was added on later in time. The first original 4 chapters were the original, and then people added on to the story. That's why I'll be reading the first original 4 chapters. And I do mispronounce a lot of words. I was trying to read this, and I just mispronounced it a lot, so please excuse that. And viewer discretion is advised, ladies and gentlemen. This is very gory. And my thoughts of the overall story will be put at the end of the video. Enjoy! The Experiments of Twilight Sparkle. The Preparation. Like how many stories begin, it was a nice sunny day in Ponyville. But it was no ordinary day in Ponyville. This was the day before the 3rd anniversary of Twilight Sparkle's arrival at Ponyville. Spike was sorting books in Twilight's library, putting them in their proper order on the bookshelves. Twilight signaled Spike to come to her. "Spike, I'm planning a party with just me and my 5 closest pony friends. There's going to be something there that concerns only the 6 of us. Sorry, you're not invited. However, you can send these invitations to them." Spike sighed. "Okay." After Spike left, Twilight took a sip of her favorite hot orangey green drink and spoke softly to herself. "Princess Celestia, she sent me here to learn the magic about friendship, and tomorrow's the 3-year anniversary of my arrival at Ponyville. So I'm gonna give her something special." She finished her little drink. Pinkie had nothing to do that afternoon. Lying on her couch, bored, she heard the doorbell ring. "Eek, a customer, I'll get it," she exclaimed. Opening the door, she said, "Welcome to Sugar Cube Corner, home to Ponyville's finest pastries, and oh, hello, Spike. Have you come to buy a cake?" She saw the baby dragging, handing her an invitation. "No, but here, an invitation from Twilight." She took it and read it. "A party? Today? As soon as possible? To learn more about friendship? I love that stuff. But I'm the one who usually throws parties. Oh well, I'll be right there." At Twilight's place, all 6 ponies were there. Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and of course, Twilight. Spike was upstairs in his bed taking a nap from the hard work he did at all day. The party was great. Colorful balloons, confetti was everywhere. There was delicious cake, fun games, music, dancing, and many gifts. Everyone was having a blast. Rainbow Dash and Applejack had just finished a game of Pin the Scale on the Dragon when they noticed Twilight was sitting all alone watching the other ponies dance while having her usual beverage. Something was off about her, but they couldn't tell what was wrong. "Hey there, Sugar Cube, what's up?" asked Applejack, approaching Twilight alongside Rainbow Dash. "I had no idea you could throw such an awesome party, Twi," exclaimed Rainbow Dash. "Excuse me?" Twilight said. "Be honest, Twi," Applejack spoke. "Pinkie is the party-throwing pony anyway. How's everything?" Twilight was happy to respond. "Yes, Pinkie is the party-throwing pony, isn't she?" "Parties, food, and games are fine, but the bigger reason why I invited you all here was... well, let's just say I planned something special for all 6 of us to really learn more about the magic of friendship." Several hours later, the ponies were tired and worn out from all the partying they did. Yes, sir, it was another satisfying party for the ponies. Thanking Twilight, they were about to head to the door to leave, but Twilight stopped them. "Wait, I saved the best for last." Rainbow Dash let out a sigh. "Can it wait, dear? We're exhausted," said Rarity. Now, Rare, Twilight said to Dash and I that she was planning on something special at the end of the party, something to learn more about friendship, Applejack told Rarity. Everyone paused, then looking at each other as they all agreed to stay. Twilight was so grateful. "Thank you, every pony. I'm happy to have such great friends." Twilight led all 5 pony friends through a door. A short hall was on the other side, with 2 bookshelves alongside each other, embedded into the night wall. Each shelf had books and laboratory flasks filled with magic potions resting in them, and a lantern hanging above them. The lanterns gave off a dim light, but it was still enough to see their way through. Passing through the short hall, they made a left turn to descend down some stairs. Fluttershy, however, was hesitant, but Pinkie turned to her, giving her a reassuring smile. After making the right turn, then a left, then another right, then a left, then a right, they finally arrived at the bottom of the long stairs into what looked like a laboratory in a darkened cave. The only light in the room was coming from some lanterns embedded in the walls. There was electricity running through some metal rods sticking out of machinery against the cave walls. Various tree branches were sticking out of the walls and coming out of the ceiling, extending to the ground. Some were wrapped around the machinery. At the center of the room was what appeared to be some sort of control panel machine. 5 metallic tables were forming a semicircle around the control device. They were titled towards many things, and facing the control panel, each about 5 meters from the control panel. The purple unicorn brought the laboratory flask, filled with her favorite drink to her mouth, and took a sip. Beautiful, isn't it? What is everyone looking at? Twilight, did you just drink a potion out of the glass container? Use the whole chemicals? One of the other ponies questions. She answered, it's one of my most favorite drinks. You've seen me drink this before. Out of that? Rarity asked. Don't worry, it's clean. I do not know why, but sometimes I just like drinking out of a lab flask. Weird, I know, replied Twilight Sparkle. No one thought much of it. Rarity pointed out 3 skeletal models of ponies up against one of the cavern walls. One of each kind of pony, sorted by poles. They are just plain creepy, said Rarity. Twilight was glad someone took notice of them. Oh, you like them? These pony skeleton models weren't that too difficult to make. I've even given them nicknames. The first model of a male earth pony, dark brown mane in his name, he is a hot one. The second one is a female Pegasus pony named Derpstick. And the last, the Trickster, is a female unicorn. They're all such cuties. Everyone stared at Twilight awkwardly. Pinky spoke up. Say, Twilight, isn't that the name? Isn't that the same room where you try to collect data from my pinky senses in the Feeling Pinky Keen episode? Applejack gave Pinky a confused look. Episode? What the hell are you talking about, Pink? Yes, it is, Pinky, Twilight said, answering Pinky's question. Fluttershy was looking around the cave. What are we gonna do in this unsettling place, Twilight? Science experiments, Twilight responded. Science experiments, Dash complained. Give me a break. Science isn't my frickin' thing. Rainbow Dash, scolded Applejack. We said we'd stay to learn about friendship with Twilight, and if science experiments are how we're gonna learn, then by golly, we'll participate. Pinky nodded in agreement. Yeah, Dashy, don't be a science party pooper scooper. Dash gave in. Fine, let's get this done with. Twilight gave Dash a happy look. Thank you, Dash. Trust me, you'll find this very interesting. Alright, everyone, get on the title tables. Tilted tables, Twilight told them. Everyone Dash began to get nervous, and when was everything? Twi? Something wrong, Dash? No, nothing. Except, this is reminding me of a dream. No, nightmare I had 2 weeks ago. Rainbow Dash was looking at Pinkie Pie uncomfortably, while Pinkie just smiled back. Oh, I get the reference. Twilight tried to reverse psychology on Dash. Don't worry, I'm sure this will be nothing like a dream, but I understand if you're scared. Dash was indigent. What? I'm not scared. I'll prove it. Dash zoomed to the table and laid on it. See? I knew you could do it, Twilight said as she directed everyone to where else to lie. Everyone lay on their assigned tables except for Fluttershy. Twilight questioned Fluttershy. What are you waiting for, Shy? Fluttershy had an unsure look on her face. Well, it's just, it looks, well, restricting and scary. Well, yeah, I'd rather not. You don't have to be afraid. I'm your friend. You trust me, right? Yeah, well, I'd rather not. Still, Shy said timidly. Twilight gave a look of disapproval. I see. Twilight's horn started to glow. She used her magic to push Fluttershy onto the middle board. A purple aurora surrounded the cuffs that were on the tables, cuffing all 5 ponies' 4 hooves, assuring that they could not escape from the platforms. Fluttershy, being sensitive as she is, didn't take the sudden impact of the metallic platform well. She started crying. Randy grew angry. Twilight, this is simply rude and unnecessary. And why do we all come to these boards? It's so tight I can't move. Rainbow Dash began to find this situation nerve again. Oh, okay, Twilight. Is this really similar to my dream? And disappointed, Twilight said, I'm hurt. Don't you all trust me? I promise everyone will benefit and learn well from this experience. So what do you say? Please, for me? Rarity spoke. Well, alright, I'm sorry. Fluttershy's eyes cleared up. Me too, I guess. Rainbow Dash. Okay, I trust you, Twilight. Thank you, everyone. I knew I could rely on you, Twilight said in a cheery tone. Twilight placed the electronic helmets on each one of their heads and strapped them on tight. Wires were coming out of the top of the helmets and connected to some sort of machinery with a large monitor. The ponies found the helmets slightly uncomfortable as they tolerate, but overall they tolerated it. Twilight pushed a button at the central control panel. On a counter at the side of the monitor arose 5 containers made of glass electronics, with wires extending out of them, connecting to the monitor side. To everyone's surprise, each container held an element of harmony. Twilight, how do you get... Rarity was interrupted. Please, no interruptions, the purple unicorn said. Twilight was ready to explain. Now what these experiments will do is help us better understand who we are as ponies. To this, we shall study and carefully analyze the element of harmony each of us represent. The elements on your heads detect and record all sorts of things about you. Namely, your heart rates, respiratory rates, symbolic, and other blood pressure, body temperature, brainwave activity, all science stuff. But they also are linking you to your own representative element. The containers containing the elements have sensors that pick up on the magical energy that these necklace possesses, and thus the effects you will all have on them. Dash felt a little better. Oh, okay, that's not so bad. That actually sounds pretty fun, even interesting. Though I still don't know why we need to be cuffed to these planks. But I trust you. Twilight was pleased. Great, let's get started with this, Pinkie Pie. Ooh, Pinkie said with an excited voice. To everyone's surprise, Twilight gave a happy pink horse a long, passionate kiss on her cheek. I love your body. I'll be back, Twilight said before leaving on the back room. Pinkie waited in curiosity and anticipation. The experiments of Twilight Sparkle. Giggle at the ghosties. Twilight returned from the back room, carrying with her a large cloth covered by a cage big enough to fit Big Mac in it, and a rather large cart containing labeled containers in several metal cases. Her friends noticed that she was wearing a clean sky blue apron. Is that an apron worn by surgeons? Asked Rarity. Rainbow felt very uneasy again. Pinkie Pie corrected Rarity. Don't be a silly big filly. That's a baker's apron. Fluttershy spoke. Oh, is there a beautiful animal in that cage? Twilight ignored her friends and lifted a cloth enough to access the door of the cage. Everyone wondered what could be inside. Twilight released what was in the cage. Everyone's curiosity suddenly changed into fear, as they all realized that they were face to face with an enormous, hairy spider, measuring 5 feet across. Everyone gasped at the sight, except for Fluttershy, who was the least nervous of the entire group, and quite intrigued. Wow, I've never seen that type of spider before. A smile entered Fluttershy's face. Are you going to teach us how to take care of it? You wouldn't have seen that one before. I genetically engineered this beauty, Twilight replied while petting the giant Anarchid. Would you believe that I used genes from 21 different species? Applejack and Rainbow Dash calmed down a bit, while Pinkie and Rarity maintained an expression of terror. Dash was concerned. So, what's the experiment going? Ah! The Pegasus was interrupted by a screaming of the pink earth pony. The 8-legged Enarthropod had crawled right up to Pinkie Pie. Pinkie became petrified as her face met with the giant spider's 8 shiny black eyes, staring right back at her. Twilight, I do not wish to continue, Rarity yelled. Please, let us out, begged the shaking party pony. But this is where the experiment begins. Why don't you try to giggle at the ghosties? Have your laughter work as magic, the purple unicorn explained. Rarity exclaimed, Twilight, I must protest. This is hardly a decent way to learn about the elements of... Giggle at the ghosty. Pinkie started to sing. A glowing light emanated from the container containing the element of laughter. The long-fanged bearing spider continued to stare. Crack up at the... The spider slowly started to lower itself from Pinkie. Whoop! Whoop it up with a weepy. Pinkie continued with more confidence. The monitor was picking up every bit of magical energy from Pinkie's element of laughter and action. Everyone watched in awe. Chocolate the cookie! The spider lowered its body further. Its eyes were to level the lower part of Pinkie's hind legs. Ouch! Screamed Pinkie as 2 5-inch long fangs dug into her right cannon. Ah, my leg, my leg! Blood began to drip from her leg. Everyone gasped at the sight. Eek, Pinkie! Fluttershy screamed. Twilight, release us at once, Rarity yelled. Yeah, let us go. demanded Applejack. Pinkie began to whimper. Snortle at the spooky... The light dissipated from the necklaces in its container. Okay, that's enough. Twilight called her pet spider, which is very creepy, while writing down the maximum strength of the element of laughter. After the spider retreated back into its cage, where Twilight closed the door, she addressed everyone in the room. Noticed that the light radiating from Pinkie's element of laughter in the container died down. She realized that the spider bit her, showing the limit of power of the element. The machine outputted the maximum energy of her element before it dissipated. When energy is converted into physical energy, it comes out to 1,000 whatever joules. Neat, huh? Twilight, how could you? Fluttershy said in a still shade of shock. Twilight answered her in an annoyed tone. It's for science. We went over this before. I thought you were okay with this. This is no excuse for letting Pinkie being bit by a giant spider, Rarity said as her horn started to glow, causing the cuffs on the table to rattle. Rarity, stop it! Twilight went over and control board in the center of the room and flipped the switch. It sent a powerful electric shock throughout Rarity's body from her helmet. Her muscles instantly contracted. She shook and jerked violently, screaming out in agony in the burning heat. This left her twitching, disoriented. All the pony test subjects had never been so scared in their lives. Turning off the power, Twilight returned to a crying Pinkie. Wow, you're so sweaty, Pink. And the lower part of your right leg is swelling. I better do something about that. Twilight brought out a bone-cutting hacksaw, one of metal cases. It must be amputated. Dash, AJ, and Fluttershy watching in wide-eyed fear as they saw the move. They saw moved closer to their pink friend, while Rarity was still unable to think clearly. Twilight, what are you doing? Rainbow yelled. Twilight, please don't do this. We're friends. Pinkie started to panic, breathing uncontrollably fast as her heart rate sped up. The purple unicorn had the saw touching the pink pony's right leg. Just below the hawk, Pinkie turned her head away, unable to watch. The blade's teeth sunk into the skin. Then Twilight started sawing. Streams of blood began flowing down the leg as the skin and muscles ripped apart. Pinkie screamed loudly in pain. Her screaming rang through everyone's ears. It helped Rarity gain back the concentration that she lost. She saw with disbelief what Twilight was doing to Pinkie. Without hesitation, Rarity used her horn's magic to take hold of Bone Cutter. Just as it hit Pinkie's monstrous bone, Twilight had an annoyed look on her face, and the inches in her eyes turned red. She tried to regain control of the hacksaw with her magic. Rarity, quit it! You're being immature! They were both fighting for the saw, pulling it on a game of tug-of-war. The purple pony had enough. She again turned to the same electricity-inducing switch on. Rarity was in intense pain as before, but she fought against the horrible burn as best she could, more determined than ever to stop Twilight. Rarity used her magic to move the bladed instrument away from Twilight. Everyone was watching in high hopes. The bookworm's unicorn anger grew. She turned off the electric current and had a quick sip from her glassware in frustration. The next thing Rarity knew, Twilight seemed to easily yank the sharp cutting instrument with her raging magic. That is it! Twilight approached Rarity with the bone-cutting hacksaw. Rarity tried to move the saw away from her with her glowing horn, but Twilight's magic was too overpowering, as if getting her mad was making her magic stronger. Coming to Rarity with the hacksaw, she positioned the teeth blade against the base of the white unicorn's horn and started sawing. Rarity's magic was getting weaker as each thrust of the saw went through her horn. She winced as the blade cut through some of the skin in the base of the horn. A small amount of blood flew down on her face. After about 20 seconds, Rarity saw her blood-stained horn drop to the ground. Everyone's heart sank as they watched what seemed to be their last hope of escape fall to the ground and die. Twilight let out a warning. Anyone else who resists will be dealt with by magic. Now, if that's all, the experiments of Twilight Sparkle, loyalty. Well, that's just great, Twilight spoke. It's too late to amputate her leg to save her. The poison's already spread. She'll be dead soon. If I don't inject her with this vaccine, I can't let her die. Twilight took a hypodermic needle from one of the cases and gave the dying Pinky a shot. It should take effect soon. Twilight poured a disinfectant liquid into the gauze sponge and cleaned Pinky's wound made from the hacksaw. After she showed the wound closed with a saturated absorbable thread and wrapped the bandage around the wound, she took notice of a light radiating from Dash's element of loyalty. Rainbow, your necklace is glowing. You're beginning to show your loyalty to your pink friend just by having a strong desire to free Pinky. Let's see just how bright you can get that light to glow without actually fulfilling your loyalty by setting her free, but rather your desire alone. On to lesson 0. Year 2. The whole group saw Twilight put on a surgical mask, open a metal case, reach inside, and take out what looked like a surgical knife. Everyone's eyes grew wide with concern. Pinky was feeling the relieving fact of the vaccine. Twi, please tell me that knife is to cut a cake. And that's a baker's apron. Please tell me this is all a prank. A mean prank? Oh, Pinky, Twilight chuckled. After giving Pinky a kiss on her forehead, she held the scalpel close up to Pinky's face. Here's for science. Be careful of that knife, Pinky said nervously. Dash's heart beated significantly faster at the sight of that knife close to her friend. Twilight, I don't want to do this. Please let me go, yelled Dash. Twilight was vexed. Why not? You silly nightmare. Dash replied, this is getting more and more like that nightmare. What exactly do you plan on doing with that knife? Applejack joined in. What's gotten into you? You're worrying us, Twi. Twilight sighed in frustration. It's for science. For the last time. Pinky watched as the knife hovered down her chest into her belly. Shouldn't you be baking that cake now? Pinky said. Try to convince herself this is all sort of a sick joke. The knife carcassed on the skin of Pinky's chest. Suddenly, Twilight pushed harder on the knife. An extremely sharp tool cut through the skin and a little the muscle of the pink pony's chest. Pinky yelled. Then Twilight slowly moved the blade straight down to the belly, making a deep horizontal gash through the skin and layers of muscle, causing Pinky to scream in pain. It was not long before the red liquid was seeping out of the gash. There was a sudden adrenaline rush at everyone for seeing what had just happened. Twilight! Both Rarity and AJ hollered. Rainbow Dash was now filled with panic. Get us out of here! Dash screamed while jerking frantically, trying to break free from the metal cuffs. But to no avail. The light from her necklace brightened. The surgeon used a gauze sponge to disinfect the cut to prevent infection. The disinfectant shrunk Pinky badly. Not wanting Pinky to lose too much blood, she used some clamps to clamp the blood vessels where the incisions were. Twilight used her hoof to lift one of the flaps from Pinky's flesh in meat by her huge wound on her underside. She stretched, compressed, and wiggled the mass of the meat and skin as if she was studying it. Pinky let out a whine of great discomfort, with each burning stretch and twist. Pinkie Pie shouted, Leave Pinky alone! You're hurting her badly. Just listen to her cries of pain. Doesn't that say anything to you? Oh, she's just being Pinky, Twilight said as a response. Fluttershy continued, Why did you cut Pinky's belly open? She's your friend! Fine. Twilight sighed. If I must spill it out to you, she is my friend. That's why we're learning together. All of us. I opened Pink because Dash wanted to rescue her, thus showing more and more of her loyalty, which will manifest physical, which will show the light growing from her helmet. I might even remove Pinky's organs after the lesson. Twilight gave a smile, eyes closed, head up high, showing how proud she was that she'd be able to do this like a real scientist. The 5 ponies army were shocked at what they just heard. Once they were learning more about Dash and Pinky, then we shall move to AJ, Shy, and Rare. When we are finished, more will be known about the elements of harmony and magic of friendship than ever before. All of them were breathing heavily and fast. Their hearts were pounding. Panic was in the air. "I'll be back in a second," said Twilight. They all shouted and yelled for pleas for mercy just as Twilight left the room. Upon returning, she dragged a huge, multi-layered cart with an array of glass containers filled with a clear liquid. The 5 ponies were petrified at the freaking and uncovering sight. Before them, some jars had active pony organs already inside of them. Their hearts were beating at a most fast rate. The lungs were still expanding and compressing. Stomachs were still contracting their muscles, as if the liquid in the containers were some sort of bioelectricity-inducing substance. The glass bottles had labels on them. They were labeled the type of organs that they were from and the ponies belonged to. They were horrified mares. Read the labels, some empty ones, but still with the liquid. Red Pinkie Pie. Some containing organs red, Blue October, Pokey Pierce, and Applebum. Applejack's world came crashing down. "You killed her? You killed my kid's sister? She was just a little helpless filly." Tears were flowing down her cheeks. The killer explained, "Oh yeah, I needed practice before I got the Pinkie. Science is full of trial and error." AJ's throat moistened as she found it hard to swallow. All sorts of intense emotions ran through her. Shock, fear, despair, and rage. "You know," Twilight went on, "it's interesting that this taboo of society. Ponies are always more sensitive about young fowls being hurt, rather than adults. Why do you think that is?" Twilight grabbed the metal silver pen from an open metal case. Pinkie didn't want to know what the unicorn was going to use it for. Twilight, "No, please no." After resisting the pin's tip on the inside of one of the flaps of meat, Twilight leaned over and kissed Pinkie on the forehead. Then she slammed her hoof into the top of the pin. The pointed object pinned down one of Pinkie's flaps of skin to the table. The pin rested in a hole pre-embedded in the table. Pinkie felt a huge concentration of pain where the flap was pinned down. Twilight took 2 more sharp pins and forcefully pushed them into a flap to hold it down more securely. Pinkie let out a more high-pitched shriek with each sudden blood squirting stab into the meat and flesh. Streams of tears were flowing down the party mare's face. Taking 3 more nails, she did the same to the flap on the other side. This left Pinkie's ribcage and bottom organs exposed. Rarity felt nauseous, but Twilight didn't even care. Nor was she finished. She took out a small circular saw out of a case. It was a bone cutter. She turned it on and pushed the spinning saw into the bottom of Pinkie's blood-covered sternum. The loud cutting noise could be heard throughout the dungeon. Sawing straight through up the hard chest bone, countless red drops sprayed onto Pinkie's tear-soaked face and on Twilight's apron and mask. The crying, begging, and pleading of the purple unicorn to stop from the 4 other ponies were relentless. Applejack pleaded, "Anything at all. Name it, we'll do it. Please, just stop this madness." Dash shouted, "We love you, Pinkie. We'll get you out of this, we swear." The light still glowing brighter still. Randy implored, "No, please, no. Fluttershy was of course crying the loudest. "Pinkie is your friend. How can you do this to poor Pinkie? Please put her back together." But it didn't seem to face Twilight at all, except for her horn, which looked as though sharpened. When Pinkie's sternum split, the surgeon unicorn inserted a rib spreader into the service and turned the lever enough to push the 2 half-sterns apart, leaving Pinkie's still beating heart in plain sight. But the ribs were not separate apart too much as to allow her lungs to expand and compress. Pinkie was too frightened to look down. Twilight locked the lever in place. Next, she brought out what looked like the huge blasting bomb and explained, "See this? It contains alcohol. I'm going to pour it all over your exposed internal organs to prevent infection. You don't expect me to experiment on infected organs, do you? This is going to sting a lot. Brace yourself, Pink." "No. No." Pinkie spoke weakly from the blood loss and stress of the pain, her face wet with blood and tears. As the Twilight didn't even hear her, she squirted the infernal liquid all over Pinkie's bare insides. The pain was so intense, it was nothing she had suffered before. Defining, blood-curdling screams of sheer agony echoed off to the cave walls. "This is not right," cried the suffering mare. Twilight repeatedly rubbed her cheek against her sobbing victims and gave some kisses in between. "It's okay. It's gonna be alright." The 4 other captives were in such trauma they couldn't stand seeing their best friend in so much pain. Pinky looked so weak and helpless, it was too much for them to handle. Twilight removed her mask. Pinky weakly glanced at her capture, putting her face right at the Pinky's. Miss Sparkle's rises fluctuated between dark red and bright red as she spoke with a big happy smile. "Guess what? I killed Apple Bloom. I killed her, and I'm going to kill you too. And it makes me happy. Your cutie mark doesn't lie. Your parties do give ponies smiles. And what a party is this? Tell me, how does this make you feel emotionally? Does it change your naive, happy-go-lucky view in the world we live in?" The unicorn waited for a response from the pony. After a few moments, the pitiful pony let out sobs of emotional trauma. She felt like nothing could stop this, not even laughter. When she finished, Twilight spoke with an intrigued, "Interesting. The magical energy seems to be dwindling to nothing. You finally learned that laughter will not always make monsters disappear. I will always know that laughter is the least useful element, but it is the most fun." Twilight addressed everyone, making sure they were all listening. "That's it. We've all learned something new about our friend Pinkie Pie. And that's that. Under such horrific circumstances like this, she's losing her element. How sad." But we're not done. There was more to be learned about Pinkie, and at the same time, Dash's element of loyalty. When she was finished, she put back on her surgical mask, readied the glass containers, then sterilized her hooves. The ponies made at least one more attempt to reason with the heartless horse. Applejack tried first. "Twi, you don't have to do this. It's not too late. Just stitch her back together." The light from Dash's helmet increased with more intensity. "Yes, Twi. She's your friend. We all know you really don't want to do this." Rarity was next. "We don't know what has gotten into you, but please, let us help you. We can help. We love you, dear." Twilight was grateful for their offer. "Thank you all. You are my dear friends." There is a spark of hope in them. Twilight's eyes turned an even brighter red than before. "But there is nothing wrong with me." Everyone's heart sank. Then came the begging and sobbing again. Twilight didn't seem to care as she opened the bottle and grabbed the party pony's stomach. Pinkie Pie felt sick. That is until Twilight gave it a good yank out of her, carrying it all with her esophagus. "Ugh!" reacted Pinkie. Twilight immediately put the digestive organ into the preservative fluid-filled jar and closed the lid. Twilight made a discovery. Well, you had a big stomach, which is to be expected since you ate a lot of goods. Twilight went to her liver next. The organ absorbs lipids from Pinkie Pie's warm, sweet blood. Lipids serve as an energy reserve, and the liver is where they are stored. Twilight proceeded with the pancreas, gallbladder, spleen, the small intestine, giving brief facts about as she did. The mares could not believe nor understand what they were witnessing. Twilight sparkled. Their very close and dear friend was seemingly out of nowhere, removing the internal organs of an innocent fellow pony. Rarity's nausea was worsening till it was too much. Her stomach erupted as she vomited several times in a row, making a big, strong odor, having a mess of bile all over her body and the floor. Dash violently thrashed her body, so desperate to break free, so she could rescue Pinkie. The light from her element was shining brighter than before. Interestingly enough, Pinkie is so healthy, and considering how much sweet she consumes, yeah, I'll need to look into that. I'm guessing it's how she hops around a lot using those muscles, Twilight said, briefly studying Pinkie's long intestine before folding it to a glass jar. Twilight dripped the bloody blade into a bowl of alcohol to clean it. After giving Pinkie's vulva a few good rubs, she used a scalpel to pierce the skin of the lying pony's groin. Pinkie could feel the very sharp tool easily dig deeper into her meat. The determined surgeon started carving up Pinkie's sensitive genitals very slowly and carefully as not to damage any internal parts. As the big pony's sex organ, Pinkie's awareness faded. Once finished, she lifted the blood-dripping private part with caution. The vulva, vagina, cervix, uterus, fallopian tube, and ovaries are still connected. Reproduction, very important. Twilight poured alcohol on the piggies, disemboweled the marrow, and placed the entire reproduction system into a vacant container and sealed it tight. She then spilled the alcohol on the Pinky's genitalist crotch. Noticing that Pinky was in an unconscious state, she took a hypodermic needle and injected Pinky with a powerful adrenaline. Pinky woke with a gasp. "Wake up, Pink. You don't want to miss your last lesson in life," said Twilight. She prepared the final decision. "Remove your lungs and heart after, so you can witness the lecture on your brain before I take it out." Sad, confused, crying, and in tremendous pain, Pinky lost a little hope. She was just waiting for it to end. Twilight tried directing everyone's attention to the monitor. Notice the high amounts of alpha brain waves on the left hemisphere of Pinky's brain, which indicates depression. Also, there's an excessive amount of delta waves. These can be a sign of depression and anxiety. Are you all even listening? Twilight applied her magic to force everyone's head to face the monitor. Basically, her brainwaves are showing the depression and anxiety she's feeling. Now then, Pinky's helmet was removed. A sharp, painful pinching sensation was left and felt as the scalpel cut across the small pink horse's forehead and across the cranium. The wincing pony's forehead was oozing out red fluid. Twilight peeled out the flesh from the top of her head, taking a part of Pinkie Pie's poofy pink mane with it, causing her to loudly scream. Next, using the bone cutter, Twi swathed through the skull bone along the incision in the skin, making a complete circle around the top of the head. She lifted the head bone piece off, exposing her tender brain. Pinkie Pie braced herself as Twilight squirted more alcohol into the brain. The sensation of that was inhumane, heavy, pounding, and more of all. The headaches all over the surface of her thinking organ, and Twilight cursing it with her hoof wasn't helping. But then there was Pinkie's awareness. Faded yet again, and she was dangerously close to death. Dash saw this. The light from her jewel-bearing necklace dimmed greatly. Seeing this, Twilight noticed, "Look everyone, at Dash's element! Pinkie's on the verge of death. The light is almost gone because Dash can't be loyal to someone who's dead." Seeing the unconscious Pinkie, the purple unicorn directed her horn to the dying mare's head and zipped her with just enough magical life energy to keep her alive and awake for a little longer. That was a close one! Pinkie awoke. The purple unicorn applied her magic to levitate a kind of brainwave analyze device to her. She put it up to Pinkie Pie's head. Isn't this interesting? The left temporal lobe is just as active as the right. I expected the left side to be far less active. Would you ever forgive me for taking you for a moron? Pinkie was too weak in much agony to be mad, or even care about the cold words escaping from her mouth. Twilight continued. Taking a measuring tape, she measured the dimensions of the thinking organ, wrapping the tape around and around and around. Vertically and horizontally, she jotted down the dimensions. I tell you all the size of her brain, but it's not like you care about learning more about Pinkie. Maybe Rainbow Dash will be more interested in it. Let's finish this experiment, shall we? The terrified mares knew what was coming. They could not bear to watch. Yet they couldn't look away. Twilight sparkle reached under Pinkie's ribs, took a hold of one of the lungs. Streams of tears profusely flowed down Dash's eyes. Isn't Twilight Sparkle we knew? Twilight hesitated for a moment, but then pulled on the lung until disconnected from Pinkie. Everyone crowded even louder. Pinkie, already struggling to breathe, found it much harder to take in the oxygen with only one lung. Nose and wheezes reverberated throughout the basement laboratory. Twilight placed both of her hooves on the only lung Pinkie had left. Twilight was hesitant again. She started sweating and breathing heavily, using her magic to levitate her fizzing liquid filled laboratory flask up to her mouth. She took a chug of it and then forced the last means Pinkie had to breathe. Within 4 minutes, Pinkie passed out from lack of oxygen. They knew it. Her friends not knew in a few minutes the inevitable would happen to the blood-covered pony. After a short passing of time, they saw the beating on Pinkie Pie's visible heart stop. Her eyes slowly closed. The brain activity ceased. They were so desperately didn't want to face the ugly fact, but they had no choice, that their friend Pinkie Pie was dead, and the glow from Dash's element of loyalty was completely gone. The experiments of Twilight sparkle honestly distorted. The ponies felt empty, like their friendship was incomplete. Since the element of laughter was gone forever, Twilight broke into somber silence. Rainbow's element, at its peak, was converted into physical energy. Comes out to 19 blah 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 juice. Twilight did a calculation in her head. Wow, Dash, that's just 0.1 short of being 20% stronger than what Pinkie's element measured. Too bad. Dash was in a state of extreme trauma. She was shaking and crying. Twilight found something that amused her. Aw, Fluttershy's still out cold. I'll have to fill her in on what she missed. Ha! How can you laugh at this? Rarity expressed her fury. If I had my horn, you... She bitterly wept. This ain't happening. Twilight, you would never do this to us, Abject sobbed, as there was an irregularly pulsating, fluctuating light emanating from the corner of the element of honesty. Applejack, are you sure that I'd never do this? Because honestly, I am. You must be in denial. Or is your mind trying to cope with this horrible situation, making you have a different time distinguishing fiction from reality? These happenings must be surreal to you. AJ spoke. If we ever get out of this, she swallowed, you are no longer our friend. Oh, AJ. Twilight took off her surgical mask to reveal an impossibly wide, demented, clown-like smile. Of course we're friends. You're just having trouble telling what's the truth and what's not. And the resulting light fluctuations fascinate me, in fact. The excited doctor grabbed hold of a syringe. It was big in size, and the hydropneumatic needle was long in length. It was intimidating. Man, this is going to be awesome. She gave Applejack a shot while singing, just flow into your bloodstream, la 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 la. After a minute or so, the Earth Pony and Twilight began to hear a faint static noise. It steadily grew in volume until it started to fluctuate in volume. It was soon accompanied by guitar screams and squeals of random durations, pitch and volume fluctuations, and the rate of these fluctuations. It was absolutely chaotic and maddening. The room of death they were in began to distort. The lengths and depths of things were exaggerated. Soon the dimensions of objects seemed shorter, and other dimensions seemed longer. Some areas of the lab walls moved closer to the pig-tailed pony, while the other areas moved further away. To Rarity, it was just an orange horse, sweating, shaking, and staring into space with a shocked and confused look, while violent flashes of light came from her helmet. Apple? Applejack spoke. Stop it, Twilight. Just stop it. I don't want to hear your mocking words. You're not, but how can you talk to me if you're dead? What's that? Is that how to escape? Twilight happily watched while writing notes of what is happening. Rarity and Dash were very confused and very concerned. Rainbow Dash spoke. Applejack, what are you speaking to? Applejack yelled as if defending herself from an attack. Quiet, let my Pinkie Pie speak. She says it's important. Her eyes watered. I know. Yes, she is. She couldn't even look at her dead little sister's organs in the jars. See for yourself. She's alive? Because we can rebuild her? Yes. That kind of makes sense. Yeah, of course it does. But wouldn't it make sense? And that means, yes. Oh, Pinkie Pie, Apple Bloom. Applejack cried tears of joy. I thought we've lost you. In your face, Twilight Jerkle. Rarity and Dash were shocked that Applejack said this, but then thought maybe it was her way of coping with their loss. I know, Dash. I want them back too, but... Rarity started to cry again. The farm pony thought, now how to get out of here? Twilight, you scum. Release right now. Twilight snickered as she recorded AJ's words and behavior. As you wish. The cuffs of AJ's and Pinkie's table glowed and opened, releasing the ponies. AJ fell to the floor. Dash and Rarity watched in disbelief. Was she free? Would they escape? No, they couldn't. Twilight wouldn't let them. The orange farm pony immediately lunged at Twilight Sparkle and delivered a devastating blow to the head. AJ's victim fell to the floor, giving a huge teeth-baring grin. Upon seeing this, Rarity and Dash stopped that maybe they would do or have another chance to be delivered. AJ seemed to have full control of her body. Has Twilight just made a blunder? Was it out of insanity or stupidity? No. She had to have something up her sleeve. Applejack pinned the grinning unicorn to the ground. Let us all go, or you will rule. They'll be free. All you have to do is help them, humored Twilight, taking out the pins that pinned Pinky's flesh to the metal table out of their pre-made holes with her magic. Applejack quickly came to the dead Pinky and gave her a hug. I'm so happy you're alive. Rarity and Rainbow Dash knew that AJ actually had believed that Pinky was not dead. They diluted Earth Pony, went to one of the jars containing Apple Bloom's brain and grabbed it. Come on, y'all, let's get the hay out of here. We'll report this purple vermin to the authorities. Goody my Crusader, bad guy busters. She ran towards the stairs. The wires from her helmet connecting to the machine that was against the wall, however, prevented her from leaving. The cords were very strong and firmly embedded in the machine in her electronic headwear, which was securely shut around her head, just as Twilight planned. Why aren't you leaving? You're too traumatized from the events to look at this place at night? Here, that'll be a... AJ placed the jar next to Fluttershy's table. Rarity had no idea what to think. What did this shot do to her? No, really, replied Twilight. A lesson will be learned from this. Rainbow Dash tried knocking sense at Applejack. Applejack! Apple Bloom! Apple Bloom is dead. And Pinky has no organs. She left nauseousness. She's dead also. It was the shot that is making you believe they're alive. But listen to me, they're dead. The cyan Pegasus cried at her own words. AJ gave Pinkie Pie an embracing squeeze, staining her coat red. You need help too, wild one? Go help Rainbow Dash and Rarity. Holding the dripping blood pony over her shoulder, she carned it over to Rarity. She had it leaned up against a white unicorn. She's alive, Rarity. Alive! Rarity's eyes widened as she forced to stare straight into Pinky's coldless, lifeless eyes. Pinkie Pie's blood-covered corpse, with no internal organs or the top section of her cranium, lying right on her, caused her to quiver uncontrollably. She felt the warm, fresh blood from the mutilated Pinky flow down her body. She couldn't hold in the puke. The acidic stomach fluid splashed into the motionless face of the deceased pony, then oozed from both bodies. Rarity was struggling to breathe. AJ, snap out of it. Do something. Applejack looked baffled. Why aren't any... Leaving! She picked up Pinky's body from Rarity and shook it violently, making blood and vomit splats on the surrounding floors. Yes, silly, let's go for a party. I'm serving multicolored cupcakes with raspberry frosting and grape flavored sprinkles. Rarity and Rainbow knew that her orange friend had officially gone completely mad, but nothing had prepared her for what happened next. After laying the body on the floor, Applejack sat next to it and sank her teeth into one of the front legs and tore off a huge mass of Pinky's raw red muscle. 3 samples, Applejack said, gnawing on the piece of skeletal muscle, while blood was dripping from her mouth. Psychological trauma was too much for Rarity. She was shaking and twitching with such force, she stained various tendons in her body. After chewing and swallowing about 1/3 of the piece of Pinky, she ripped out. The Psycho Earth Pony dropped it to the floor and took another healthy bite out of her leg. She forcefully pulled out another chunk from the front leg, taking with strength her muscle that peeled like string cheese. She ate roughly half of it before letting it fall to the ground, then bit another part of the messy red teeth. Rarity couldn't dare watch this anymore. Applejack, stop it. Just stop it, she said with her eyes tightly shut and her head turned away. This did not stop her mentally sick friend. The insane pony just kept biting off and munching on her helpings of Pinkie Pie, like she was eating a chicken leg. Don't fret, I'll transport you outside soon, Rare. Why must I feel this way? Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle was very entertained, plus she really felt like a scientist. She was so excited. She would have loved to be more directly involved with the experiment, but she had to take her little notes. After about 20 agonizing minutes of pony cannibalism, Applejack had stripped Pinky's front leg of nearly all its brawn, throwing the uneaten pieces into a pile, then went for the exposed radius. Twilight realized this. No, don't damage the bone! She went over to the machine that had the cords coming from the helmet on AJ's head that were hooked up to. She pressed the button, and the wires connected to the mechanism like a cord to a vacuum cleaner. This pulled the cannibal towards the machine, restraining her from running the leg part of the skeleton. She now had a much smaller range to move around in. Twilight moved Pinky out of the way via her magic and then gave AJ a bigger range of freedom once more. Sorry, AJ, the Dr. Unicorn spoke. I want to have a skeletal model of Pinky. Continue. After a few moments of shivering and moaning, Applejack went up to a horrified Rainbow Dash. I'll help you. I'll get you out of here. The farm pony had her open mouth, bloody teeth pressed against Rainbow Dash's silent belly and bit down into it. Dash realized what AJ was about to do. Applejack, no, don't do that. It won't help it any. With a forceful pull, AJ tore off the piece of the winged pony's underside. Rainbow Dash wailed in pain. After eating half into it, the piece was spat onto the ground into a pile where Pinky's meat was. Rainbow Dash. Rarity screamed from shock. Applejack cut the... Dash was interrupted by the pain of another piece of her belly being torn out and partially eaten. Massive amounts of blood gushed out of Dash's body. Dash's body flowed onto the floor. After more tearing of flesh and meat and loud screams of agony, nearly all of Dash's belly was gone. Her stomach and liver were now exposed. Twilight expressed her imagination of the horrific sight. Aw, that's so cute. Dash was weak. She lost a significant amount of nutrients carrying bodily fluid, as was evident by the red puddle on the floor below her. Applejack's jaw grabbed the exposed stomach and pulled it out. She ripped it open and consumed the stomach's contents. Some of the acidic juices dripped from her mouth. This was too much for Rarity. She passed out. Applejack threw up from eating all this pony's meat and stomach contents. The remaining part of the vein-covered disgusting organ was thrown into a pile of Pinky and Dash fragments. It was an absolute bloody mess. Rainbow Dash lost nearly 2 liters of blood. She was very pale, shivering and sweaty. She was breathing fast and heavily. Her heart rate was fast. She was going into fatal shock. Say, I do believe we are done with this session, decided Twilight, pushing the button on the machine that the wires from AJ's helmet were connected to once more. The cords contracted, causing Applejack to be towards the machine. What have we discovered, you ask? We discovered that under the current warped state of her mind, this is how AJ perceives to be the truth. Just look at how chaotic a regular person... Just look at the chaotic, irregular pulsation of the light jewel Applejack just possessed. Also, she's so desperate to free you all, such as by transporting Pinky and Dash out of this place. Onward! The restricted orange pony tried desperately to break free from her helmet. She was pulling hard on the strap, but nothing worked. She was a vicious dog. She was like a vicious dog held by a tight-up leash. I need to let my friends know I love them. Oh, why won't this noise stop? AJ kept struggling, but after a few minutes, she sat on the ground, shaking in a fetal position out of fear. She was wearing a scary grimace. She was sweating so much she looked like she was bobbing for apples. Her eyes were wide, her pupils were small, her eyes looked around like crazy. Then her expression changed. For a few moments she was looking as she was thinking hard about something. Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle had a few sips of her hot, orangey green drink from the glassware. This was about to prepare for Fluttershy. She was stopped, however, by the sound of something rippling, and a loud muffled scream, followed by the sensation of being hit by a soft, wet, squishy object on her side. The object fell to the floor, making a splat sound. Dropped like a gravy-covered scoop of mashed potatoes. She turned around to see what the cause of this. She saw that Applejack had a huge, deep gash in her hind leg, with blood oozing out of it. Oh, as though we're not done. Well, I joke have a more severe effect on you than I predicted. Twilight said what we realized as she looked at her pen and paper. Applejack was in tears as her mouse grabbed a second smooth piece of her outermost organ. I must break free. She stretched into his breaking point. It's necessary. Transporting myself over there. She noticed that the purple unicorn was absorbing her. She spat that bit of herself out of her blood-dripping mouth. Stop looking at me. You're looking at my plan for escape, aren't you? She cried. She took an even bigger mass of her own throbbing leg and released her loudest scream yet. At the same time, crying more tears of burning pain. The orange pony, in pain, placed her own sticky brown fragment in her mouth and started chewing. Twilight gave a giggle. She continued jotting down what she saw. We shall see who will come out on top. I'm breaking free as I speak, Applejack said. Afterward, the chunk of herself that was in her mouth, H continued to suck on tearing off some of her own leg, wailing and weeping and spitting the lump of herself out onto the floor away from her. Oof. See, even now I'm slowly moving towards that spot. Out of these chains, she said while pointing to the area where she was throwing herself into bit by bit. Spoke of the thinking unicorn. Though I've been taking enough notes, I'll let the machine continue recording your brain activity through Applejack's helmet. Then analyze a day later. Now, what a joy! The doctor went back to the retrieve a cart with a tray. The tray had tools in it hidden under a cloth. There was also alcohol-filled bath bombs and bottles of water. Twilight gave Fluttershy a few slaps. Yoo-hoo! Time to wake you, sweetie. You can do it. Pegasus didn't respond. Twilight gave her a gentle hug, then moved on to plan B. The end. Well, this is now the end of the story, and you're probably thinking one of my thoughts. Overall, my thoughts of the story was pretty fucking creepy as hell. But the storyline was good. It actually had good composition and good writing. The only thing I would say is fix your spelling errors, because there was a lot, and that's what made me mispronounce a lot of frickin' words because of the spelling errors. And a lot of the words didn't make sense, so I had to improvise, which you could tell by me stuttering a lot. So I had to improvise in some parts because the words didn't even make sense. But did this creepypasta / fanfiction reading scare me? It did at some points. Gave me a little wigged out feeling. And I'll probably think about this or probably give me nightmares later on. But overall, it's a good fanfiction. Would I read it again on my own time without reading it? Yeah, I would. Because I can possibly read the other half of the story that was later on added by others. Thank you for watching this entire video. I know this is one of the longest videos I've done in a while, besides being commentary. Happy Halloween!